Welcome back to On The Cusp, where we talk about some of the hard topics in North Louisiana every day. My co-host Matt Snyder is back with me today. Matt, thanks for coming. And with us today is Ben James, and I'm going to let Matt introduce you.
Well, Ben is the owner and I'll call you head investor at Deupree James Wealth Management. He left Merrill Lynch and opened his own firm, and you know, I love those kind of stories. He's also a client of mine and friend of mine, and I kind of beat Ben up with questions every week, and I was like, man, we need to just go ahead and do this on the podcast because other people need to hear this. And Ben is unique, I think, in what he does, one, as a business owner that's running his own small business in Shreveport, but also in the way he invests and looks at the economy and different things. So I've bounced a lot of the ideas that I see around in local businesses off Ben for a more global, you know, big picture. Does this make sense to you? This is what I'm kind of seeing. Does this fit to what you're seeing when you're looking at the big picture? So that's been really cool. So I was like, let's talk to Ben about that. Why does the Shreveport economy seem to not always follow the national?
I think that the Shreveport economy, if you look at it, it's just very different than the national economy. So last night I looked at the top 10 employers in Shreveport. And so they were places like, well, the base, the Air Force Base was number one. A lot of healthcare. So you had Willis-Knighton, LSU,
Health.
right? Christus was on there.
And then your schools.
The
school
schools,
systems.
correct.
Your government.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Those
So-
are your big drivers.
Right, and so if you look at those, we all know that there's oil and gas in Shreveport, and I'll get to that in a minute. But if you look at just those, they're all beneficiaries typically of government spending. And government spending is very often not in sync with the economy. Like they'll sometimes ramp up spending to try to get the economy going. So, you know, my wife always says that Shreveport weather is never as extreme as the Dallas weather. You know, if they're getting like storms in Dallas, we're going to get just a little rain here. It's kind of like that too in Shreveport, I think. And it goes back to some policy decisions we've made. You know, back in the 80s, my business partner, Scott, he always talks about how he was slinging drinks downtown. And then when the oil crash came, the gates literally came down around him and like banks were closing. And so the powers that be in Shreveport in the 80s decided we've got to diversify away from energy. And so they moved to more investment in healthcare, they moved to investing in the port, they moved to doing things like the BRF, which I think is a wonderful thing.
That is correct.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But those healthcare spending just by itself tends to be non-cyclical. If someone feels like they're about to lose their job, they're very often, or at least in the past, one of the first things they worry about is losing their health insurance. And so people would go and get, you know, something taken care of that they wanted to do while they were still on their insurance. So healthcare spending tends to lag the cycle anyway. So I think that's one of the reasons we've seen the Shreveport economy depart from the national. The other is obviously energy.
Okay, so one of my favorite stories that we'll just put out on recording, but I tell often, is I was sitting at John Pickens one day, and he had a TV on, and it was like the news, and it was like, foreclosing houses, housing crisis in America, you know, like this. And then I looked, and there was an oil and gas guy with 3 of his guys, and he was buying $10,000 suits, and they were drinking a $10,000 bottle of bourbon while they got fitted. And I was like, what is going on? Why is Shreveport, why is this like this?
Well, I mean, very often you'll see an energy spike leads to a recession in the rest of the country because it's kind of like a tax hike on them. So what is good for Shreveport is not always good for the rest of the country. It's just like you're talking about. I mean, right now, the national trends are showing the consumer is cutting way, way back. I mean, Target's CEO just came out and said
that was bad news yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, and what's funny is Walmart's earnings were fantastic. And the difference there is there's a discretionary spend at Target, there's more groceries and non-discretionary spend at Walmart. So we're seeing nationally the consumers acting very differently than the Shreveport
And
consumer.
here, I can't drive down the street without being ran over by a huge truck with big old wheels, and I feel like every guy in town's gotten a new truck in the last 2 months.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, at the BRF, you know, we're here to help diversify the economy. And one of the things that we do is focus on startup businesses, because we believe if you grow your own, they'll stay here longer.
Yeah.
Because if you invest in them, you generate entrepreneurial wealth, you generate investor wealth, you can diversify your economy enough to where you can survive some of those ups and downs. Because that's really what we in Shreveport have really learned to live with.
Right.
Hey, oil and gas is great. Everybody's employed. Oil and gas is not, okay? We struggle. And we're fortunate, you said earlier, we've got Barksdale Air Force Base. It's one of the largest employers here. But we don't have a defense industry built around that. If you go to a lot of other defense bases, okay, you've got Lockheed Martin, you've got Northrop Grumman, all right, you've got Raytheon. They're all 1,000-person research, development, production groups. Those are high-end tech jobs. Now, Matt says, just having jobs won't do it. He's all about the culture, right? Okay, we just finished that episode. But to us, those jobs are key. We want them in Shreveport, Bossier. We need one of those big defense industry anchors here to help kind of even this out a little bit.
That kind of leads to the other thing I always beat on Ben about. It's the argument of, I walked in when I met Ben and it was like, man, every cent I have, I'm going to bet on Matt. I'm going to invest in Matt and what I'm doing because I believe I can control it and I can make more money, betting on myself than you can make in the stock market. And over time, Ben was like, yeah, but you should diversify and, have a safer retirement, and this isn't fair for your family. But so that's an interesting argument. How do you balance, especially people with real wealth in our community, investing locally versus investing nationally or globally?
Man, there's a lot to unpack there. So how do you balance investing locally versus nationally? And how do you balance investing even in yourself versus in your own business and investing in a diversified portfolio of stocks? So I'll start with the first one. You can always control the risks in your business. You know them better than you know the risks in some publicly traded company. So you should be able to make a better return there. It's just a question of, how much time do you have and how many opportunities do you have? And, kind of when you run out of opportunities there, we say, then the public markets are probably a good spot to look for that. I love your next question, though, and I think it dovetails into what you were talking about with what the BRF does. So one of the areas that we do very differently than most financial advisors is we run a microcap strategy. And I won't talk much about it today, but the microcap got me really interested in small businesses, private equity, that sort of investment. And I was telling you before we started, about 6 years ago, I started doing private investments myself. And the returns can be higher, the risks are a lot higher. But for a piece of your portfolio, it's totally appropriate. And I guess it really depends on your liquidity needs, on how you balance that. But I came away convinced that at least 10% of your portfolio should be in something like that. And I'll tell you this way, I think this is a great way of thinking about it. Let's say all your money is in the U.S. stock market. And let's say the U.S. stock market makes 10% per year. Just keep things simple. Well, if you put 10% of your money take it out of the stock market and put it into some private businesses, even if that all goes away, it just takes 1 year to get back what you just lost. So, and it probably won't go to zero. I mean, the odds are it's a lot
pretty slim.
Right. The risk is definitely higher. Maybe it drops in half. Maybe you're very unfortunate. But I think that the return story is strong enough in investing in very small companies that you don't even really need to get into the whole, well, this is good for my community or not.
Yeah, because I was about to go there.
Right.
Yeah.
I was about to say, because in that investing, you're doing both.
Correct.
You're investing, and it's good for you, hopefully.
Yeah.
But it's also good for our community because you're keeping more dollars
That's right.
in our economy.
So where we struggle, I think, and Dave, you can jump in here, but where we struggle in Northwest Louisiana is, I think that the people that invest in startups, let's say, if you're in San Francisco, someone comes to your door every hour with a new idea. Versus here in Shreveport, you got to hunt a lot harder to find an idea that can really scale.
Absolutely, absolutely. We see a lot of ideas here at the BRF. Most of them won't scale, and we know that the individual bringing us the idea is not the one that can take this and make it a great return both for themselves and the investors. That's hard.
Yeah.
And we struggle with, we don't have a lot of talent like you and Matt to pluck out of what you're doing and go, man, you need to take this one. Now, we've had a few. Okay, we've had a few. It was a great idea, university-based technology that they licensed, high demand, high growth, and we were able to find somebody, okay? Normally what's happened to me is one of my analysts go, I want to do that, okay? And they jump into that. So we've struggled with that.
Yeah.
Now, but then there are others that come in that are really great. They've done it before. They keep going.
Yeah, the founders.
The founder is key.
A big deal.
A big deal.
Yeah.
We were talking about, like, I love Pelotons. Like, Pelotons is a disaster of a stock. I mean, it's just everywhere, and so I love it. And Ben,
but it was a great idea when somebody was sitting there and
like,
got a team together and pulled it together and made that. But to us, starting your own and keeping your own technology-based companies in North Louisiana pay high return to the community. And there's a multiple, from an economic development standpoint, there's a multiple of 5. Your indirect job rate for every startup job you create that has a annual salary of greater than $60,000 falls in that multiple of 5. Okay.
We always talk about, and it's to your San Francisco point, is that what Shreveport has for an entrepreneur, though, is you get to be a star.
Yes.
That's true, yeah.
I mean, that guy that has the tech-based company here gets a lot of eyeballs, a lot of attention, a lot of love.
Yeah.
That does he get if he's in San Francisco?
No, he's a small fish in a great big ocean in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's got 10 guys waiting in the waiting room to come pitch an idea that competes with him.
Right. Yeah. Well, this is the time to do it, though. If someone's looking to start a business, it looks like we're entering a recession now. This is when a lot of small businesses get their start. I mean, you're seeing tech companies just laying off people all over the place. And, there's like 11,000 people that just left Google, I think. That's 11,000 people that can put ex-Googler on their resume and go start a business.
That's correct. And if they're looking for a place to start, Shreveport's a really great place to start a technology-based business, because we do have a support base here in Shreveport that's willing to do just about whatever it takes to get them to launch here. Some of our angel investors, they sit on anything they invest in, they sit on the board. And what I've seen is where they put their money at risk, they are now willing to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
So when you hit that first hurdle, they're there to help you get by that hurdle. Now, you may not have that. If you go to California, okay, you may not have somebody. They're going to, blind investing, okay, hope you make it. That is not the case here in Shreveport. They're with you. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen them find ways. I've seen them whip open their phone and go, wait a minute, call the guy, say, hey, we need your help, all right, and make it happen.
I think that's one of the biggest mistakes startup founders make, is that they want to hide mistakes. They want to hide problems from their investors, when their investors have that Rolodex and they can help them.
Absolutely. There's nothing you can't tell them.
Yeah.
And I tell them that all the time. Don't wait until it's a problem.
Yeah.
If you call me the week before payroll is due, probably not going to be able to help you.
Yeah.
All right. You call me a month out, say, hey, sales aren't going the way I thought they were going to go. We can find somebody. We can come up with a solution.
Well, I mean, this is a great opportunity right now. Like I said, you got the economy that looks like it's heading into a recession, and we also have companies are very concerned about their supply chain. And this is an opportunity like I don't think I've ever seen for small and mid-sized cities. Apple just announced that they were going to bring their chip production to Arizona. It's going to be done by Taiwan Semiconductor, still a foreign company, but there are cities like Shreveport all over this country that are going to benefit from.
See, I'm with you 100%. Okay, I think we in Shreveport are on the cusp of being able to do some great things. You mentioned the port. There's some great things going on at the port. We're lucky. People talk about multimodal. We're that, okay? There's train tracks running in every direction in and out of this place. A river runs through it, okay? It might divide us at times, but it does run through it,
yeah.
Okay? And we can get anything you want to Shreveport, and we can get it out of here.
Yeah.
And we have to come together as a community, take advantage of those things, and understand that, look, starting a business in Shreveport really is a great idea because your money goes further.
Right.
I love the idea that you really said it, but without going into it, is that Shreveport, because of its kind of backward economic cycle, really presents itself well for a company to come to in hard times.
That's right.
Yes.
And launch out of into a world that is ready for it.
My counterpart, Ryan Culp at Shreveport Next, he's our lead recruiter to get companies to recruit here. If you're thinking about launching a new product line or updating a product line in the manufacturing space, it's going to be hard not to consider Shreveport. Now, we got some other challenges we have to overcome with that, but Shreveport is a great place to do that.
Yeah, yeah. One of the resources I would send listeners or viewers to is the economic development talk that the Y published. I'm sure you watched it.
I did.
I've become a big fan of Justin Dixon. He talks about how he used to recruit businesses to the Golden Triangle in Mississippi, and he said not once in 9 years did he ever compete with anybody from Louisiana, not just Shreveport, no one from Louisiana. And I believe in what Justin's doing. He's getting sites developed and getting them ready to where you can just go to these businesses and say, hey, this is turnkey.
Right.
So
you must have those sites to do that.
Yep.
And we support Justin. We think he's doing a great job as well. He goes and does the big ones. We're going to focus on smaller opportunities. We got to have somebody in the region focused on those site selection things. He's our guy. Absolutely got to have him.
No, I love what you guys are doing because, if you think about the average person in Shreveport that has money to do these types of investments we've been talking about.
Yeah.
They have enough money to put it in this asset class and accept the risk
Correct.
For it.
Yes.
Okay.
You think about that type of person. Very often, they're not going to naturally think about startups. They're going to think about the public investments. And I think a lot of that is because that the wealthier people in Shreveport have typically made their money through their jobs, through working. I don't think that there have been enough people that have been exposed to entrepreneurs. That's one of the things that my partner Scott and I saw. We were employees when we were working for a Wall Street firm, and we noticed that, hey, a lot of our clients who've done extremely well became business owners. They weren't working for somebody else. And so we had that advantage that we could see, 300 lives and see how they ended up in the end. But I think that if more people were exposed to how true wealth is created in the United States, then they would really look hard at
Yeah,
starting.
I always say I wish a lot of these families would look back on the risks and the aggression it took to build their initial wealth.
Yeah, and it is risky.
It is. It is risky.
Shreveport right now might be seen as a safe place where a lot of people with wealth are very calculated and safe, but if you look back at where this wealth was created, it was created on risk and going and getting it and getting down
Working
and dirty
hard.
and working hard and I think Shreveport could use a little shot of that back in its arm.
Yeah,
every
well,
once in a while.
every investment portfolio needs a little bit of growth, a little bit of safety, and what we have in Shreveport is mostly, if we were a stock, we would probably be a safe dividend-paying stock. That's kind of where we are, and we need, we did a good job diversifying away from just energy, but we need more. We need some of that growth.
That's why I keep trying to get Dave to get on this culture train, baby. Let's take a little risk, Dave. Let's roll
We're
the
going to get
dice.
there. I'll tell you what, when we land the 2,000 job opportunity, okay, we'll have more culture
I'll throw
in
a party.
Shreveport than you've ever seen before. Okay, people will be throwing the money in there. Hey guys, thanks. This has been great.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
Appreciate it, guys. Enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
that was fun. Thanks,
All
man.
right, thanks.